Hi guys, I'd just like to take just a few moments to talk about some of the key differences between healthy exercise or dedicated training performance as compared to disordered exercise, which is what we see more commonly as part of an eating disorder. Now this is particularly important for males and for boys, because usually in eating disorders in boys, exercise is a more central component, so it becomes that bit more crucial to be aware of any possible disordered exercise in boys if we're going to detect any body image concerns early. Now, one of the first things you'd notice about exercise, which is part of an eating disorder, is that, quite simply put, it's geared around appearance, and it's not geared around perfecting a particular technique or spending time exercising socially with friends or even preparing for a competition. We often see those who exercise as part of an eating disorder reporting that their exercise is driven solely by appearance concerns, or by burning a particular amount of calories, or to earn a particular amount of calories, or to earn a particular amount of protein. This differs quite markedly from training which is part of a dedicated sport regime, in that it doesn't differ according to on a day-to-day basis, or if there's a special competition approaching. This intensity will be met day in, day out if it's part of an eating disorder. Following on from this, those who exercise as part of an eating disorder usually find it incredibly difficult to stop exercising. Now this can be a little bit difficult to tease out. If a competitive athlete does have an eating disorder, it may be quite difficult to distinguish if their training is part of their sporting commitment or as part of an eating disorder. But one thing that will definitely distinguish between the two is if after the season's finished or after the competition, the particular person still cannot stop exercising, which is very much part of an eating disorder. Similarly, if a person has an injury and they're medically advised not to train or to rest for a little while, and they find it incredibly difficult to stop training, that may be a further indication that this exercise may be part of an eating disorder rather than a dedicated sports performance. A further feature of exercise reported in eating disorders is connected to the attitudes which drive the exercise. So what we commonly see in those who exercise as part of an eating disorder is that they exercise based on a particular belief around how they look. So for the majority of boys with eating disorders, we often see them exercising because they feel overweight or because they feel underweight, and that's what drives their exercise, and it's not a preference or a desire to improve their performance in any sport in any way. A further feature of exercise reported in eating disorders is a strong lack of enjoyment, and in some ways exercise in an eating disorder is almost seen as like a job or an obligation. It's some part of their day that has to be completed for them to be okay with the rest of their day. A further feature of exercise reported in eating disorders is a very pronounced lack of enjoyment of the exercise, and it's almost seen a bit like a job. In that it's a chore that has to be done. It doesn't necessarily have to be enjoyed, but it's something that has to be done as part of their eating disorder, and not doing it results in a large amount of distress. So even though the exercise isn't always enjoyed, it's always done, but it's just not enjoyed. Now that differs markedly from sports training performance or healthy or regular exercising, in which usually there's an element of enjoyment or achievement. A further feature of the exercise reported in eating disorders is that there's a high level of rigidity in the overall training regime, and that's kind of similar to the rigidity in the food intake as well, and the very specific calculations. But those who exercise as part of an eating disorder often carry notebooks recording particular weights, making sure to follow the same routine day in, day out, and there's a really marked level of anxiety if for some reason there's a deviation from their training regime.